Well, folks, it's that time of year again where we start doing every one of these videos. We've already done Wyoming elk, we've done Arizona elk and antelope. Today, I'm going to talk about New Mexico. New Mexico for 2022 is very similar to how it's been in prior years. So the good news is we don't have a whole lot of changes to talk about. The biggest thing that changes every year is the deadline. The deadline is, I'm looking at their booklet right here, March 16th, 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. If that's the only part of this video you watch, just know about the deadline. And we want to thank our good friends at Go Hunt for helping us make these videos possible. If you want to sign up for their insider, use promo code Randy and they'll give you $50 of credit in their gear shop. Back to the deadline, March 16th. New Mexico has a bit of creates this love-hate or at least mixed emotion thing for non-residents. We like the fact that they have an earlier draw and they turn it around pretty quick because they're promising us we're going to have our results by April 27th. So you got to like that about them. They don't mess around. They get it, once this draw closes, let's get some results out there. The other thing that we all like about New Mexico, or at least I do, all of you have heard my opinion that I think these point schemes are just an elaborate method for states to build false expectations and get more money out of us. I usually don't say that about state agencies because I admire state agencies. They're biologists, they're scientists, everything else, but I'm not a fan of point systems. And New Mexico does not have a point system. Woo! Kudos to New Mexico. That's what makes it a good state for non-residents to apply in. Because I've been applying there, trying to remember, I think Herbert Hoover was president when I started applying there. If you just start applying this year, you got the same odds as I do because there's no point system. So that's good. But now we get into the part about New Mexico that non-residents aren't that fond of. But, every state has the right to do what they want to do as far as how they allocate their hunting opportunity between residents and non-residents. And here's how it works in New Mexico. 84% of the tags go to residents, which, you know what? Residents should be given the highest priority in every state. So the remaining 16%, this is where it creates a bit of rub with at least the self-guided non-resident. 10% of their tags go to someone who signs a contract with a guide or outfitter. It's a guided, like a pool of tags just for guided clients, regardless of resident or non-resident. So you got 84% to residents, 10% to guided clients. Well, you do the math, that leaves 6% to those of us non-residents who go self-guided, like I do, like probably most of you do. So that's not a very large pool of tags that goes to the self-guided non-resident. So that's where I think, talking about this mixed emotions, love-hate thing. Well, that's where the mixed emotions come in, as our chances are really small. But fortunately, there's not a huge upfront cost as far as sunk costs to New Mexico. You got to buy a $65 non-resident hunting license, and then there's these stamps that if you draw, I think you add up to 2 stamps together, it's another $14. But you do have to front all of your license fee or tag fee. So you got the $65 license, you got all this other stuff. By the time you add in the tag fee, it's a pretty big chunk of money that they sit on for over a month. And then even when the draw results come out, it still takes a few weeks for you to get the refund back on your credit card. Because all of this gets done online. The old days of any paper application, forget that. That's been gone for quite a while. So if you're on a budget, New Mexico can eat a pretty big chunk of your budget because here's how much money you have to send in on top of your non-resident license. The tag fee for the higher demand, the high quality elk is $773. Deer, whether mule deer or coos deer, is $368. Pronghorn is $283. And when I tell you the numbers for Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep and desert bighorn sheep, you'll see why I quit applying there when these fees got this high. $3,173 is what you have to add or front in the form of your tag fee to apply for either the wild sheep species. I ain't doing that. Sorry. I just ain't doing that. And then they have exotics in New Mexico.
I'm exotic, to say the least.
Exotic or ecstatic?
That's what I meant, yeah, ecstatic. Yeah.
They have oryx and ibex. If you apply for those, you have to add $1,623 to your application. And then they have Aoudad or Barbary sheep, they're often called, which is another $373. Every one of those species I just rattled off, this same system, the same draw system is in place in New Mexico. They don't have a separate draw for moose, goat, and sheep as compared to elk and antelope and deer like they do in Colorado. They don't have different deadlines. It's here you go. This is our one time. This is how it works for every species. Like it or don't like it. And if you don't like it, get out of here. I don't know that they say that, but that's kind of how it comes across. You know what? Here's the beauty of our model of wildlife management in the United States. It's a state-based system. So every state gets to do what they darn well please. And those of us who hunt as non-residents, we're hunting there at the pleasure of that state and its citizens. So as much as I may say, I don't really like this system or really like that system, well, if I don't like it, I got the chance to say, hey, I ain't applying. So I think we have a tendency to get in the grind, the rut of, this or that. Just understand in a state-based system, whatever that state and its citizens decide, that's how it's going to be. So we either deal with it or we elect not to. Let's talk about how the draw and the choices work in New Mexico. So it's kind of weird that there's only a few states that let you put multiple choices and they look at all those choices before they go on to the next person. New Mexico is one of those states. They look at your first 3 choices before they go on to the next person. So use that wisely. Probably your best tool in your strategy of how you apply in New Mexico is how you use those 3 choices. And you're going to see a 4th choice and a 5th choice, but as a non-resident, just say no. Don't even mess with the 4th and 5th choices. There's one more complication that you don't need to worry about. You don't want any of the tags that you'd get down in a 4th or 5th choice, you don't want them. You don't want to pay these fees for that type of hunt. So focus on your first 3 choices. And here's how I do it. The beauty in New Mexico, you can mix and match weapons types. New Mexico probably has more muzzleloader tags than any state out there. You can do 1 or 2 or 3, all your choices as archery, or 1, 2, or all your choices as muzzleloader. And the same for rifle. So you can mix and match based on what hunt appeals to you, what season dates appeal to you. And as it comes to elk, which I would say most people focus on elk hunting in New Mexico, so most of my comments will be directed towards that. Their archery seasons are mostly in September, followed by their muzzleloader seasons, which are usually in early October. Some units have a later November muzzleloader season. And then the rifle hunters get to come after that. And those are usually in late October. Some of them extend a little bit into November, but the goal in New Mexico is they want to get as much opportunity as possible without impacting the resource negatively. So you get really short seasons. The longest season out there is the first archery season that runs, I think, September 1st through the 14th, if I remember right. And then the next archery season is the 15th through the 24th, so they shorten that. Because it's in the rut, they shorten it. Well, most of the muzzleloader and most of the rifle seasons for elk are 5-day seasons. So you might have first archery, second archery, muzzleloader, maybe a youth hunt or a mobility impaired hunt, and then a rifle hunt. And then usually they're like, all right, we're done. We're going to let the critters have the rest of the year off. So New Mexico has really short seasons. And that's how they can provide as many different hunt codes as they do and still maintain the herd that they seek to have. There are some units that are never hunted with a firearm. They only are archery or muzzleloader. Through all of this, I would say, creativeness that New Mexico uses, they're able to kind of satisfy multiple interests. In other words, the archers, the muzzleloader folks, and the rifle folks. Get a lot of people out in the field and have really good hunting in the process. So I think New Mexico does a really good job in how they do it. So knowing that there are all these different season types, these weapon types you can choose, think about how you use these three choices. The most difficult choices are always going to be the rifle hunts. There's more demand for the rifle hunts than any of the hunts out there. From a priority standpoint, you want your first choice to maybe be swinging for the fences, right? Let's hit a home run with this one. Because if you get the lowest random number, it's like, yeah, I'll take that tag over there. And then you probably do something that's a little bit more of a midterm hunt or mid-range kind of demand. And whatever hunt you would be happy with that has the best probability of getting a tag, that should be your third choice. So difficult, maybe difficult or somewhat difficult, less difficult. Don't be putting a super easy draw tag as your first choice and then a really hard to draw tag as your third choice. You're wasting one of those choices because there's never going to be a situation where an easier to draw first choice is filled when a really high demand third choice isn't filled. I always, look at the probability, look at the draw odds from last year and put them in hardest to easiest. And that's really the only strategy that you got to worry about with New Mexico. There's not a lot more to it because there's not these point schemes where, okay, if you do the dishes at the public school, you get 3 extra bonus points, and if you walk the mayor's dog, you get another extra bonus point. There's none of that stuff in New Mexico. The thing I would say that New Mexico has are the best mobility impaired hunts in the West, New Mexico. Hands down, not even a question. And probably the best youth hunts in the West are in New Mexico. They take some of their best elk units and at the prime season dates, they let the mobility impaired hunters and the youth hunters in there before the rifle hunters come. Kudos to New Mexico for doing that. And as far as the youth hunting, there really is no age restriction. You just have to have passed a hunter education class. I've been out in New Mexico and I've seen some pretty small statured hunters walking around with a rifle. The rifle's almost as big as they are. I'm thinking, this kid 12 years old? And no, they're 8 years old, but they passed hunter's ed and they drew a tag. That's how it works in New Mexico. New Mexico is one of those states that does not have a blaze orange or hunter orange requirement. It's got a ton of public land. There's a lot of private land also, though, in many areas. It's kind of like somewhat Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. The eastern side is predominantly private, and as you move west, you get more public. So when you're looking at the map of what units, just know that the ones further west have more public than the units to the further east. State trust land, there's a lot of it in New Mexico. You cannot camp on it, but your hunting license gives you access to those little powder blue sections on your map. That's state trust land. It's held by the state land board to generate revenue for the school system. In New Mexico, the Game and Fish Department actually pays a large fee, well over $1 million, I believe, every year to the state land board to allow hunters to have access to those lands. So if you see those, you can go hunt them, but just know that you can't camp on them. So here's another thing you need to think about when we're carved down to just that little 6%, right? The way New Mexico rounds these numbers, you have to have, I believe it's 13 total tags for a hunt code before there's one non-resident self-guided tag. 6% of 13 is 0.78. So if you get above 0.75, they round it up to a tag. So that's why there needs to be 13 tags. Don't apply for a hunt code that only has 7 or 8 tags. There's not even going to be a tag issued. If there's 10 tags, there's not going to be a tag issued. Where you really see this come into play is when they restructured their antelope seasons 2 years ago. They used to say, Unit 17 has 50 tags. Well, non-residents used to get 3 of those. Well, now they've broke it up as 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Like, wait, we don't get any of them at that rate. So don't waste any of your choices on a hunt code that doesn't have enough total tags where non-resident, self-guided non-residents would be awarded one of those tags. That's a very common mistake. So some of you might ask, how do you calculate draw odds and probability for a state that looks at all 3 choices of an applicant before they go on to the next one? Because you really need to know how many applicants there were for every hunt code at every choice, first, second, or third. And it's nearly impossible to do. I've tried to do it on Excel spreadsheets forever. You can't do it. So how Go Hunt does it, they get the entire application pool of, okay, there were this many people who put this as first choice, second, third, They have the whole deck of how many applicants for each hunt code as a first, second, or third choice. And they run the draw over 500,000 times. It's called the Monte Carlo simulation. And that gets rid of kind of the anomalies. And that's really your only practical way to give you a super high confidence of what that would look like based on last year. That's no guarantee of what it's going to be this year. And no, I'm not a stock market guy. Past results are not a guarantee of future performance. Whatever. My point of that is, if you want a group that really can tell you what the probabilities were last year and use that as your foundation for what you think might happen this year, the Go Hunt draw odds are the best out there. They go through it to that much detail and run it that many times. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is a very controversial thing, and that are landowner tags and the fact that private landowners in New Mexico pretty much run the pronghorn hunting. Now, if you have access to private that has pronghorn, you can go make an arrangement with that landowner, and there's no cap on how many pronghorn tags can be used on that private land. You still buy your tag from the state agency, but now most of these pronghorn hunts are strictly trespass hunts or guided hunts. And then there's a mountain of landowner vouchers for elk. And how that works is, according to their formula, I'm going to oversimplify here, that 30% of the habitat is on private land, so the private landowners get 30% of the tags to stay, based on what they think the harvest objective would be. And there's 2 types of tags. There's the ranch only tag, where you can only hunt on that deeded land of that landowner. And then there's what's called unit-wide tags, which there's far fewer of those, where you can hunt anywhere in the unit for that season date. Public, private that you have access to. So it's a controversial system. A lot of people don't like it. I understand why they don't like it. But that's what New Mexico has settled on, at least for the time being. And a lot of people, especially outfitted clients who don't draw, they end up using landowner vouchers. And what it is a landowner sells you a voucher. You take that voucher and you redeem it at Game and Fish. You still got to pay your tag fee and everything to Game and Fish, but the hunter and the landowner determine how much they're willing to pay or sell the voucher for. It's just out there, and I would say New Mexico is the kind of the predominant place where landowner vouchers exist. So, all of that, don't forget your deadline. Get out your cell phone right now and put March 16th. Well, don't do March 16th. Do it a few days before that. Because so many people wait till the deadline and the system's plugged up and you're getting these, you know, the little wheels spinning on your screen because their servers are just plugged. Don't be that person. Go out there, set, you know, March 10th or something. Put that, you know, do my New Mexico application or get it done right now. It's open right now for applications. And know that that deadline is March 16th at 5 p.m. We're going to have our draw results by April 27th. You're going to have to front the non-refundable license fee and the tag fee. And you have 3 choices. Use all 3 of them and use them with some strategy. And if you want way more than what I provided in this video, go out to Go Hunt, use their insider, all the aspects of that. And use promo code Randy, they'll give you $50 in their gear shop. But mostly, good luck. New Mexico's got great hunting, most units, and you can tell which units have the majority of public land because those are the hardest to draw units, right? No one wants to deal with access issues. So go check it out. If it fits your plans, fits your budget, do it. And I wish you all the luck in the world. Thanks for watching.